Hello, federal employees, and welcome back to another episode of Plan Your Federal Benefits. And I am Dallen Haws, and I look forward to the next few minutes with you to share some insight about some risks that FERS retirees are going to face in retirement and how a few tips and tricks on how to manage these risks to make sure that you are prepared. Because in our financial life, to be financially fit, prepared for the future, it's all about managing risk. For example, to manage the risk that we die prematurely, we buy life insurance to make sure our family is taken care of. To manage the risk that a company that we invest in goes out of business, we invest in a diversified portfolio, so we invest in lots of different companies. So if one goes out of business, our risk is managed and we don't have a huge loss because of that. There's going to be risk in life. It's just about managing the risk to make sure that you aren't exposed to too much of it and that you're set up for success in retirement. So the last episode I did was on 3 huge risks in retirement as well. So if you haven't listened to that one already, definitely check this out. This is 3 additional risks that you're going to see in retirement and a few tips and tricks on how to make sure that you're prepared and ready for all the bends, the curves that come in retirement. So let's dig right in. The first risk that you definitely want to think about is inflation risk. And I talk about this quite a bit throughout my episodes, throughout my channel, all these things. But inflation risk is something you definitely want to think about. We have all heard the stories of being able to buy a gallon of gas for 25 cents, right? We've all heard that. But thanks to inflation, right, those days are long gone, where over time, we all know the price of things go up. And if our investments, if our income doesn't grow with that as well, then we're in trouble, right? We can't maintain our standard of living if the price of things keep going up and our income don't follow it as well. As federal employees, you're fortunate. You have your pension and Social Security, both of which do grow over time with inflation. And your pension doesn't always grow as much as inflation, but it does grow over time, which is good. Your investments, on the other hand, this is where I see a lot of room for improvement for a lot of federal employees. Some see, once they retire, some say, hey, once I retire, I'm going to go 100% G-fund and be good for the rest of my days. Well, maybe, and maybe you'll be just fine doing that. All I want to get across is that the G-fund is a great fund, but if we're too conservative in retirement, then our investments don't grow fast enough to first beat inflation and also allow us to not run out of money over time. So there isn't one specific product, there isn't one specific tool or solution to manage inflation risk. All I want you to think about is, hey, in retirement, is this something I'm thinking about? I want a certain standard of living. How do I make sure over time my income grows just as much as the price of things that I want to do, whether it's traveling, whether it's just food and rent and housing and all these things? How does it apply to you and how to make sure that you stay on track? Okay, risk number 2. And this can be very unpredictable. This is unexpected health concerns or loss of independence, right? We all know that as you get older, the risk of things happening to our health increases. Things happen, whether it's cancer, whether it's accidents, whether it's anything, things do and probably will happen. It's just a matter of when. And the cost of healthcare, be as it is rising very quickly, we want to make sure that you have the insurance you need or the resources you need to make sure that you can cover these costs and still live the way you want. Nowadays, healthcare is getting incredibly good, so when things do happen, the chances of you dying are coming down, meaning you're going to live longer and things are going to cost more, right? If someone passes away, well, of course there's cost there, but if they keep living, well, they still want to maintain a standard of living. They still need money, so they don't want to waste it all on their treatment and not have nothing left after. So first, make sure you have the coverage you need, whether it's your FEHB plan, whether it's getting some pieces of Medicare to fill in the gaps, right? Medicare Part A is free, so that's a no-brainer. Maybe Medicare Part B. Make sure that you are covered in a way that you are comfortable. Some people are okay with less coverage, but have the resources to jump in and fill the gaps if needed. Some people are more comfortable with more coverage. Make sure you have what you are comfortable with and you understand the ramifications of something large happening. The other thing is loss of independence, and that is long-term care. If something was to happen to you so you couldn't take care of yourself, what's your plan? I'm not always a huge proponent of long-term care insurance. It's very expensive is the bottom line. Sometimes it does make sense, but oftentimes it doesn't. So for you, what makes sense? What are you going to do if you lost your independence, right? Do you have kids that are financially prepared, emotionally prepared, and your relationship is good enough where they would take care of you, right? Or do you have other family members? What would you do to make sure that first those costs are covered and you are going to have the life that you want, right? Everyone has a different idea of what success looks like in retirement, so make sure you have the coverage, the resources to make sure that makes sense for you. And now the third and last risk that I'm going to talk about today is longevity risk. And this is a good thing and a bad thing. Longevity risk is the risk that we live longer than we expect. And this is a great thing. We all want to live a long, happy life. That's what we want. But when we live longer than we expect and our financial resources start getting strained because they weren't meant to last that long, that can be a very, very stressful thing for the retiree and the family members. And as we live longer, as we get up there in age, the other risks that I've talked about, whether it's the risk of healthcare, the risk of inflation, all these other risks become larger as well. Because the longer we live, the more chances of inflation getting high, or interest rates going high, or something changing so that our financial plan may not be what's most appropriate for you over time. And so when it comes to you planning for your retirement, make sure you have enough wiggle room in your plan to account for these sort of things. To say, okay, if I was to lose my independence, how would I react to that? If I was to live to 110, how would my financial situation handle that, right? And who knows how long you're going to live, but in my opinion, it's much better to be prepared for the unexpected and it not happen than be unprepared and it do happen, right? Or at least know what you're taking on as a risk. Not every risk is worth getting insurance or solving it in one specific way. It all comes down to, okay, what am I comfortable taking on? What sort of risk do I want to take on? How much risk do I want my spouse to take on? What sort of things am I willing to pay for? What sort of things am I not, right? That's what it's all about when it comes to planning for your retirement, is managing risk and enjoying your life. I hope I'm not a Debbie Downer, right? These last couple of episodes I've just talked about like some of the scary parts of retirement, things you want to look out for. But I hope to remind us all that retirement can be incredible. That's the point of thinking about all these things, is to make retirement incredible. To worry about these things enough up front so that during retirement we don't have to worry about it, so that we can enjoy it stress-free. Say, hey, I have these things in place, I'm set up, I have a plan, so that if something does happen, I know it's going to happen. We're going to lower our stress down the road by looking into some of the stuff and making sure you're prepared for everything that might come up. So hopefully that was helpful. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.